Hi, I'm Elena Jonas, and I recently moved to a tiny city in Africa to treat and examine cancer patients. I'm a world-renowned doctor, and I own a free clinic to help people who are less fortunate. I'm married to my beloved husband of 7 years, Joe Jonas. We have 2 children, Melissa and Kate. I have a great life, even though I struggled with postpartum depression after my second born. And she also lost a finger because I slammed her hand too hard in the car door.
They've always wanted to help the less fortunate, Elena told me earlier. So when she got the job offer in Africa, she didn't take much time to hesitate on whether she wanted to do it or not. The answer was pretty simple. So they moved within the first month after they got the offer. They did not do research, any specific research, for where they were moving or what they were moving into. Perhaps this was not the best idea or the best plan. They quickly realized when they landed that none really spoke English, so communicating was very hard, and informing each other of different things and information was also a barrier.
Before I moved to Africa, when I wasn't at home or in the hospital, I was usually on tour with my husband, going to all his concerts, and I loved it. Since I moved to Africa, I really love volunteering at the children's home and washing clothes in the river. It's so fun. One day I woke up and I had a high fever, and I felt this burning sensation on my leg, and when I looked down, I noticed that I had a blister in my lower thigh area. As a doctor, I know that you don't just get blisters out of nowhere, and they're not supposed to burn the way they did. It was excruciating, so I decided to go get checked out at the local doctor. When I went to the doctor, they didn't tell me anything. They told me they weren't sure what it was. Later, I found out that the reason why they didn't tell me what it was because in their community, I was considered someone of higher status, and they were scared to misdiagnose me.
Elena decided to do research herself, as the doctors did not provide any relief of the pain or explanation as to what was happening to her body. She ran over an article which was talking about the waters in Africa, and specifically about helminths, which is something she looked further into as she felt like this might be possible. She quickly diagnosed herself when she read about the symptoms and the life cycle of the helminth, and she recognized that this is what was happening to her.
When I came across this article, I noticed that some of the symptoms that I had and some of the symptoms they were talking about were similar. Like, for example, the water in the city that I live in really isn't that clean, so I thought that it would be very possible for this. I also had blisters, and they also said that blisters will most likely be on your legs, and that's what I had. I did have one, as well as I had a very high fever. And
after concluding that she had guinea worms, which is the helminth mentioned in the article, she decided to do further research to educate herself on it. She found out that it's a larvae living in the waters of where she lived, and the larvae happen to be eaten by fleas, which live in the water. So when the water is consumed either on accident or as a source of water, the fleas further down to the stomach, where the fleas are killed by the stomach acid, but the larvae survive. So the larvae penetrate into the intestines and migrate the abdominal tissue. This is where the females and male worms mate, and then the pregnant females, they migrate into the subcutaneous tissue, usually in the lower limbs, which is what she was experiencing, which is one of the main reasons that she concluded that this is what she had. And then the females will form blisters from acid that they secrete to break through the skin, so that when this burning sensation happens, usually patients will seek relief in cold water, but that is also where the female releases their larva. So if you do happen to get this, do not go ever in the water, because this is when the larvae will be released and it will all get a lot worse. The immune system's response to this worm is forming an inflammation around it as an attempt to isolate it from the rest of the body so it doesn't spread. There are no vaccines or medicine to heal yourself or protect yourself from guinea worms. So once you have it, the only thing you can really do is hope that it doesn't get worse and wait for it to break through the skin. And the treatment for it is, there's no really like surgical treatment, but there is one method which has proven to work, but it's very hard. And you basically take like a stick and you have to twist it around and then very slowly pull it out because it is very fragile. And if it breaks, you have a lot more problems, one being death. So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing if you're gonna perform this procedure, and especially if you're doing it on yourself, you really want to make sure that everything is sterile and that you have the equipment you need and the patience, and that you're mentally prepared for what you're about to do.
So I've had this guinea worm in my body for a year, and I didn't know that. I recently found that out while I was doing research on it, and in the article I found, it said that guinea worms, the blister will form after a year because that's when it's ready to come out. And the emotional impact on me, like, it was very painful, and it caused me distress and anxiety because I didn't know what was going on, and it was making it very hard for me to do my daily things, like taking my kids to school in the morning. It was really hard for me. Like, I couldn't go on tour with my husband for a whole year. It was really hard for me. And then being a doctor over there and helping people, it was really hard. I isolated myself because I thought it was a viral infection and it could spread to others, and I didn't want my kids to get it. I felt very lonely and depressed because I was isolated all the time, and I had some social anxiety, and it was really hard for me to deal with it. My husband said he felt a sense of helplessness because he didn't know what to do, and he was very uncertain about what was going on and if I would live or not, because it was something the doctors weren't sure about. So he was very scared for my well-being, and he and my kids really missed me being able to go out with them and take them to school and stuff like that, because I tried to isolate myself, but I was relieved when I found out that it wasn't viral.
Although this was a very tough infection for Elena to deal with, she was really relieved when she found out that she cannot spread it to others by contact, so they could only get it by doing the same mistake she did of ingesting the water.
As of recently, I've been feeling a lot better, and I've not been in as much pain, so I'm hoping it gets better.